Hello everybody, welcome to this new video in which I will introduce you to SharePoint Embedded. So let's start. What is SharePoint Embedded? SharePoint Embedded is a cloud-based document management service, meaning that we are able to manage different kind of files in the cloud. Which kind of files? Any of them. Not only the Microsoft one, but any of them. Images, videos, and so on. This service is fully integrated in the Microsoft 365 ecosystem, providing information, providing the content of that. It is fully integrated in the Microsoft 365 ecosystem. The documents stored here in SharePoint Embedded fits also Copilot, so we can use Copilot based on the content that we store in SharePoint Embedded. And also we can provide security in Microsoft Purview for the documents and the containers here in this service. It is also an API-only service, meaning that we can access the information in SharePoint Embedded, the files and containers, using the Microsoft Graph API endpoints. What are the different use cases that SharePoint Embedded fits in? For example, for elevating applications, meaning that we can integrate this new service seamlessly into the existing applications, providing a document repository. So we can use these features, these new features existing in SharePoint Embedded, into our existing applications. Secondly, for migrations, we can take our documents that are stored in other repositories like our local folder or a network shared folder and put it into a SharePoint Embedded container that automatically will provide with a lot of new functionalities to the end users. And finally, creating new applications that will provide with more engagement to the users having this service in the background. Okay. What else? For complex regulation scenarios like governmental agencies that has very tight rules and procedures that businesses must follow, or for industry regulatory bodies in which these standards and regulations for the different companies are very hard, or finally by international organizations that regulates different business operations in a lot of different countries. So here in these complex regulations we can take advantage of SharePoint Embedded for creating great applications. What are the benefits of using SharePoint Embedded? We will see three of them: cost simplicity, multi-tenant and multi-app features, and finally why it's simpler because it has fewer concepts. So let's start with cost simplicity, and we will use its brother, if you allow me to say in this way, that is SharePoint Online. For all that you know that SharePoint Online needs a licensing model, know that each user has to be assigned with a specific license to use SharePoint, to access the document libraries, the sites, and so on. And in the SharePoint Online world, we have a lot of different kind of licenses available. In this case, for example, here I put the Microsoft 365 Enterprise license model, the licenses, the Office 365 Enterprise, and so on. But in SharePoint Embedded, what we have is that we pay for the use of the service, pay-as-you-go model. This means that we will pay for the amount of information, for the size of the documents that we store in the service. We will pay also for the calls that we will do to the Microsoft Graph API endpoints, and for the amount of information retrieved from these calls to the API. And both of them have this additional storage that we could buy to Microsoft in order if we need some more of them. So we have to take it into account. What about the multi-tenant and multi-app solution? Let's do the same. Let's compare with SharePoint Online, that it's the one that probably all of you know the most. cost. So in SharePoint Online we have the UI, the data and the documents in a single tenant. We have everything in just one tenant, and we cannot move from that tenant if we want to interact with SharePoint Online. However, in SharePoint Embedded, we decouple the application with the data. So we have on one hand the application, and on the other hand we have the documents. This means that we can have documents in different tenants, and we can have applications accessing some of them. In this case, the application number 1 accesses the 3 tenants, or it's able to access these 3 tenants. However, the application number 2 can only access the documents on tenant 2. And as I said, why the manage of SharePoint Embedded is simpler is because we have fewer concepts. In SharePoint Online we have a lot of them: SharePoint Pages, SharePoint Framework, extensions, web parts, the own SharePoint APIs, and so on. But in SharePoint Embedded we only have container types, we have containers, and we have applications. And some of them can be shared between both tools, right? Tenant Concept, webhooks, and Microsoft Graph API. But as you can see, less concepts, it's better for a simpler management. What about the architecture overview? So the main concept is the container. The container is a virtual box in the cloud that you can tailor with different kind of settings and properties. Settings like enabling OCR, or the versioning of the documents that will be managed by the container, or will be inside this container, or properties allowing to add information to the container for organization purposes, right? And also you can define the columns which you will be using your files, right? So as I mentioned, the container will have a lot of different kind of documents. We saw in the first section, not only Microsoft ones, but any of them, okay? And you can apply the metadata based on the columns defined in the container to each of these files. And also you can track and manage different versions of these documents and restore a previous one in case that you need it. In addition to this, we have to understand the concept of the application and container type. Both of them are related. What is a container type? A container type is an element that allows to configure the high level of the SharePoint Embedded service, okay? And the application here, the Entra ID application, it's related with the container type that allows to access the information in the containers and to manage the cost in Azure. So the first thing that we have to do if we think on a SharePoint Embedded solution is to create a container type and a owning application. And both of them will live in the what we call the owning tenant. Remember that here we are talking about the Entra ID owning application, not a specific application, a UI or a desktop, a web app or a desktop application, but the registered application in our Entra ID environment. As I said, this container type can manage high level of container configurations. The container will live in the consuming tenant and is accessed by the owning application. But not only that, because we can have more tenants and we can have these container instances based on the container type or regulated in some way with this container type. And also we can define other kind of applications that we will call guest applications. You have it here in the bottom of this slide, and this application will only access the container of the consuming tenant too. However, the owning application is able to access both tenants. Remember, when we talk about owning application or guest applications. We are talking about Entra ID registered applications. The web apps, the desktop apps, the processes that we will implement can use these registered applications in order to access the data. In terms of permissions, let's see a brief summary for the application level, for the container level, and for file level. In terms of application, we have different groups of permissions. We can manage the permissions inside the permissions, so we can have an application that manages those permissions with an application that can add permissions to a tenant, update the permissions assigned, delete one, delete the permissions of their own application. We can have another group for container management, create new of them, remove containers, write the properties, change the properties of the container or read them only, and about the content. Very, very intuitive. At container level, we have 5 permissions. The first one, the owner, is for deleting the container. The manager is for managing the permissions of this container. Writer for updating or creating new properties of the container, new columns, so on. Reader for reading the information of the container. The next one is the file level. You can see that it's very simple. Writer for changing the content, for updating the content of a file, and reader for only accessing the information and reading it, right? And finally, I want to share this table in terms of facilitating the selection of which tool to use, okay? If using SharePoint Online or using SharePoint Embedded. It depends on your necessities, on your needs for your solution. So let's talk about the development model. SharePoint Online is a completely web development model in which we can extend it implementing new web components, right? In SharePoint Embedded, we are talking about an API-based solution, so we can integrate it in the different applications that we have. Talking about the user interface, SharePoint Online is completely what we can do is customize the web interface that Microsoft provide us. However, with SharePoint Embedded, what we have to do is to create that interface. We can create custom applications, custom web app applications, or different background processes, but we have to implement that EUI part of the applications. In terms of deployment, SharePoint Online can be deployed on premises or being used in the cloud. However, SharePoint Embedded is it's available only in the cloud. And talking about the main the focus for each of the tools here, SharePoint Online is as I write here, a comprehensive platform for document management and collaboration. However, SharePoint Embedded is the API approach for integrating a document management in custom applications. So let's summarize this presentation. SharePoint Embedded is a cloud-based document service with a powerful API that we can use to integrate it in our existing applications. What are the benefits? We saw the cost simplicity that we have in terms of paying for the use that we are doing in SharePoint Embedded. We have this multi-tenant, multi-app feature in SharePoint Embedded, and finally that it's simpler than other tools, other applications, because we are managing less concepts. And the last thing is that we saw here in this presentation is the architecture. We saw that the couple in SharePoint Embedded, data and UI and the applications are the couple, so we can take advantage of it. We have containers, we have files, we have applications, so let's do a great configuration of all of them to implement really great solutions. Thank you very much. Hope this is useful for you, that you can, with this video, you understand better what is SharePoint Embedded. And let's see in the next video.